In this video, I'm going to show you a calculator tip on how to do substitution in the calculator. So, here's the problem we have. All this stuff right here I have written are all the calculator steps, so I know it's kind of a lot to look at for now. If you've already watched the video and you want to see the steps again written down, you could pause it right here. So we're going to look at this problem. Let's do it by hand first. It says, what is the value of the expression when n equals negative 15? So all we're doing is we're going to put in negative 15 for n. These vertical lines right here, those are absolute value symbols. They do two things. They work like parentheses, meaning according to order of operations, you do whatever's inside of that first. And the other thing that it does is once you do all the math inside of it, it's going to take whatever's inside of those absolute value symbols and it's going to make it non-negative. So that means it has to be 0 or bigger. So let's try this and see how it works. So I'm going to substitute in. It would be negative 2 absolute value. Instead of n, I'm putting in negative 15. So negative 15 plus 6. So it looks like that. Now we do the math inside our grouping symbols, inside the absolute value. So negative 15 plus 6 is negative 9. So I have negative 2 times the absolute value of negative 9. So the thing that changes absolute value, or the special characteristic of it, is it's going to take negative 9 and change it to something that is non-negative, or it kind of takes the distance from 0. You can think about it that way. So negative 9 is 9 away from 0, so it's going to change this, and I'm going to write it over here, to negative 2 times 9. So it's going to look something like that. And negative 2 times 9 will give us negative 18. And that would be answer choice B. So it would look like that. Okay. So when we do it in the calculator, we should get negative 18. So let's go ahead and try this in the calculator. So get your calculator. You're going to go to y equals. And you're going to put this into the calculator. So let me show you how to do that. So if we're back at the home screen, you can hit second mode to get to the home screen. You're going to go to y equals, which is the top left button, clear out whatever's there, and we're going to type in whatever algebraic statement they gave us. So y1 equals whatever algebraic statement they want us to do. So that's this. So you're going to type in negative 2, make sure you use the negative key, do not use the minus key, if not it's going to mess up, times the absolute value of n plus 6. Now, I picked this problem specifically because I wanted to show you how to get the absolute value. To do that, you'll hit the math key, which is below the alpha key, and you'll go right to number. So I'm going to hit right on the directional pad to number. And we want the first one. The first one says abs. That is not talking about your stomach muscles. It's talking about absolute value. So we're going to click that, and then when you click enter on that, it's going to put in absolute value for you. And you're going to type this in, except we're not going to put in n. The graphing calculator only uses x in here, so we're going to use x, which is this key right here, plus 6. To get out of these absolute value symbols, you just click right. So I'm going to click right on the directional pad, now I'm out of it. That's what we want typed in. That's what you need to have typed in your calculator right now. Okay. Now, these steps tell you exactly what we just did, and this is exactly how we got to absolute value symbols. Next thing we need to do is go to second graph to get to the table feature. So I'm going to go to second and graph to get to the table feature. Now, I made mine start exactly on negative 15. Yours probably started on 0 or maybe even some other number. To get it to start on the number we want, which is negative 15, instead of hitting up or down a bunch of times, you can go to second, window, and you can tell your calculator to start the table at negative 15. And this says how much you go up by. So the triangle table means delta table. That means how much do you go up by each time in the x's. So it goes up 1, 2, 3, 4, for instance. So we want to start at negative 15. So change that to negative 15 and then go back to your table. And it should start there. And it says when you input negative 15, it should output negative 18. And that's exactly what we said we should get here. And then we said that that was answer choice B. The other way you could do it, instead of going to the table, and that's what I have written down here, is the other way. You can go to vars, which is the key beside the clear key. So hit vars. Go right to yvars and enter on function. And let it type y1. And it's going to put y1 on your home screen. And we're basically have this in function notation form. We want to put negative 15 into our function that's in y1. So this is saying go to y1, and I'm going to put parentheses, and I'm going to type in negative 15, and close the parentheses. And here's what it's doing. The calculator is taking negative 15, and it's putting it in for x in y1. So when I click enter, it's going to put negative 15 right in here and do the problem for us. So if I click enter, it should give me negative 18, and it does. You can do it either way. It doesn't matter which way you do it. The other type of problem you might see are function notation problems. Function notation, or function form of an equation, is when an equation is solved for y, so when y is by itself. So here's an example, 3x plus 2, just something easy. When you're in function form, mathematicians like to write it in what's called function notation, which just means instead of y, they're going to use something else, and they use what's called f of x. So it looks like this. And what this means is they're calling this whole function f. They're naming it f, and whatever's in parentheses is the input to the function. So right now the input is x. When I input x, it does 3 times x and adds 2. That's what the machine does. So if I did, for instance, instead of f of x, if I said, or a question might ask, what is f of 2? What that would do is it would replace this x with 2. So it would do 3 times 2 plus 2, which would be 6 plus 2, which is 8. So that means f of 2 is 8. Okay, so if you get a problem that's like this one, that I'm putting a box around, that I wrote in red, if you get a problem like this one and they ask what is, let's say, f of 3, you could just type this into your calculator just like we did that other problem. So you go to your calculator, go to y1, clear it out. Our function was 3x plus 2, so I'm going to put 3x plus 2. And then I'm going to go to the table, second graph. I want to put in 3 for my x, so I want to start at 3, so I'm going to hit second window, and I'm going to tell the calculator to start at 3, so I'm going to clear that out, put in 3, go back to my table, and it says the answer should be 11. If you look, when you put in 2, it gives you 8, which is what we got down here. And again, the other way to do it is you can go to the home screen and go to vars. So let me clear this, go to vars, write, enter, enter, put in parentheses. For instance, f of 2 was 8, which is what we got exactly right there. And also, you could do the same thing for 3. So I'd go like this. And there is f of 3. Click enter. There's 11. So let's double check it. That's 3 times 3 plus 2, which is 9 plus 2. So that means f of 3 is going to be 9 plus 2, and 9 plus 2 is 11. So the calculator did it right. Go ahead and try some of these practice problems.